Jump Ultimate Stars, the ultimate fighting game. It's a shame that no other fighting game has decided to function the same way it has in the past 17 years. Man, I'm really starting to feel my age now. While the most contemporary fighting games like Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear, and so on have decided to quote-unquote dumb down, as some people would say, the core mechanics of past entries to make it more user-friendly, Jump Ultimate Stars as a whole, and its predecessor, Jump Superstars, by extension, were built up from the ground as a simple fighter, instead of the core mechanics having to fit in some sort of ultimate nullifier as found in the aforementioned mainstay fighter game titles, say for example, Street Fighter 4's Ultra Combo mechanic, Tekken 7's Rage meter, or Guilty Gear's drives easier inputs compared to other older titles. There's been a ton of videos based around this game on YouTube for donkey years at this point about the core features, so I'll simply have a quick breakdown, or I'll try to make it as quick as possible to give you guys an insight into why I believe it's the ultimate fighting game, right? Jump Ultimate Stars has a deck feature. Okay, before any of you lot zone out from hearing the word deck and assuming it's some sort of card game, this won't be the case here actually. What I mean by a deck in this case is a grid-like feature in which you will fill with tiles to complete your own deck, which you will then take into battle with. There are 3 types of tiles in this game: battle, support, and help tiles, but we can also use the word coma as it is used in the community online and in Japan as well. And basically, if you guys can look at the image on the video, that's what your deck will look like. It won't be as big, probably only a quarter of that size, but yeah, that's what you'll be filling it with basically. A battle coma is essentially your player character that you'll be controlling in battle. The lowest battle tile is 4 and goes up to 8. Essentially, the more tiles needed for a certain battle tile, the more powerful the character in terms of the damage output. Each character essentially plays differently in certain cases. For example, a 4-tile Goku would be in its neutral state, 5, 6 and 7 will be in a Super Saiyan state, and his 8-tile form would essentially be Vegito, a being formed from the Potala fusion of Goku and Vegeta. And obviously these are all constant, they're not variable, so if you have a 5-tile, you're always going to be Super Saiyan, you're not going to go down to Super Saiyan, well not Super Saiyan, you're not going to go back down to its neutral form, or you're not going to go up to Super Saiyan 2. All the forms are constant whenever they've been fit into your deck, and when you play a match, they never change essentially. Moving on to support tiles, they follow the same principle as the battle character tiles. 2 tiles being the lowest and 3 tiles being the highest number for a support character. With 3-tiled supports in most cases posting better utility than their 2-tiled counterparts. I'll use the example of Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho's being an objectively better support with his 2-tiled variant due to my perceived value of the options it offers over his 3-tiled support, despite the damage decrease. Lastly, we do have the help comas. All help comas in this game only take up a single tile in a player's deck. Help comas provide their own unique bonuses. These can range from reduced damage from, say, sword attacks, to offering an additional gauge of the super meter. In addition to battle and support tiles, you also have natures or types assigned to them. These add another layer of gameplay that makes knowledge an essential part of your pre-game regime. Of course, the most talented player will win as usual, but having 2 players of the same level, but with one of them having a better built deck, they're most likely going to win consistently, and that's what fighting games are all about, consistency, right? In Jump Ultimate Stars case, you have 3 types which include power, knowledge, and laughter. Power deals more damage to knowledge characters, knowledge deals more to laughter characters, and laughter deals more damage to power characters. It's the rock, paper, scissors of fighting games that's apparent before even the fight even begins, you could say. While I don't know the exact damage percentage modifier, it always felt to me personally to be at a 50% increase, which isn't too shabby. If it was 100, that's a bit like OP, but 50, I'd say, that's fair, especially because you make your own decks with your own characters. One last minor thing before we move on to the main combat gameplay. Every battle character has characters that they can be linked with. These are optional, but by placing either another battle character, support, or help character, the benefiting character is granted with additional boost. This could be like a health boost, or it could be like a special gauge boost and stuff like that. So while it isn't essential, it's a nice little perk, and you can see a nice little conversation as well when you are linking somebody for the first time. Now that we've had a quick rundown of the deck system, to be honest I could have spoken more about it for hours, but this isn't an Iceburg video. I can now finally talk about the actual combat gameplay. Jump Ultimate Stars incorporates 3 types of attacks: weak, strong, and special attacks. Weaks are like most games, minimal damage output, but are quicker to unleash, unlike strong attacks. Strong attacks in most cases follow the opposite pattern of weak attacks, and special attacks need to consume a bar from your special meter to unleash an incredibly potent attack. For weak and strong attacks, they follow a directional variant: neutral, horizontal, upwards, and downwards. For most characters, you can chain a neutral, weak or strong attack into a directional, weak or strong attack, or even vice versa for certain characters. A downwards weak attack will result in a change in attack, which will force your opponent to change their current battle character for another one, and they will be unable to change for a few seconds. I think it's like maybe 5 to 10 seconds maybe at most, indiscriminately. An upwards weak attack for most characters will result in a launcher juggle attack, leading up to even more devastating combos if you know what you're doing. A down strong attack will activate a guard break, and are especially devastating if your opponent is against the wall for insane combos. A friend of mine would do some really BS stuff with Kakashi, and yeah, it'll just be nightmare central. Finally, we have the super attacks. Unlike weak and strong attacks, they only have a neutral stance variant and an upwards variant. With the upwards variant, you usually lean into filling some sort of anti-air option or unique function that's not a standard damage focused ability. For example, Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures 5-Tau Coma variant upward special involves him using his iconic Road Roller ability, where he teleports above his current position to ensnare foes under the Road Roller and pummels it until its eventual demise. Dio's up special for his 6-Tau variant, however, stops time for a few seconds, in which the opponent players are unable to move. On another note, while most battle comas ranging from 4 to 8 may have the same weak and strong attack animations, barring characters who have transformations like Goku from Dragon Ball with his Super Saiyan form, or Ichigo from Bleach with his Bankai in their upper battle character tiles, they usually have different special attacks, and add more onto the gameplay aspect of maybe even using a weaker version for the fact that their specials might be more optimal for the game plan you have in mind. An example that comes off the top of my head is Vegeta's 4 Coma. While he has the worst damage output of any other higher towered Vegeta, his up special is actually an unblockable attack which blows enemies far and wide, leading to scenarios where you can have some breathing room if you're on the defensive or trying to aim for a ring out on your foe. In terms of defensive options in the game, we do have a guard which you initiate by holding down on the D-pad. Of course, if you bear too much damage, it will eventually break and you'll be open for your opponent's next attack. There is actually a feature that boosts the effectiveness of guarding in the game, but was never actually explained in any of the manuals or tutorials found within the game, so maybe this is one of those happy accidents. It's essentially akin to Marvel vs Capcom's Advanced Guard, whereby timing the exact moment your opponent's attack comes into contact with you while blocking, PSA that it doesn't actually work on unblockable attacks, and pressing the strong attack while in the guarding state will push the opponent's player back by a good distance. This gives you some breathing room if needed and negates some damage that would have been incurred if you had not used this maneuver. Okay, so we finally have the core gameplay mechanics noted. What next? The maps, of course. We have a range of maps available in this game, each with their own gimmicks. Don't worry folks, you can always turn these gimmicks off during multiplayer battles, but it's always nice to have the variety at your own disposal. From personal experience, the Yu Yu Hakusho map is pretty much your Super Smash Bros. Final destination in this game. Unless you want the actual final destination map of this game, it's not a fair map at all, because it doesn't accommodate for the gameplay and it's like very cheap, very easy. It's complete BS in all honesty. But if you guys are looking for, say, something more akin to Battlefield from Super Smash Bros., then there are a good number of maps that naturally kind of accommodate for that urge if you need it to be itched. With all of these factors considered, we now know the components of what can form an ultimate game. Is Jump Ultimate Stars simply a mirage, the zeitgeist of 2006 of guys on the internet playing in high school, secondary school? Well, myself along with many others have longed for a new entry, and before anyone says, what about Jump Falls? What about Jump V-Stars? To quickly clear up any of those questions before we move on, Jump Falls and Jump V-Stars lacked what the young folks call soul. The only points of the games that I'm particularly grateful for is to hear the voice actors who I hear from their anime counterparts. The gameplay itself isn't enduring in the way of making me not just play a game, but thinking on and off the playing field. Is the barrier of entry easier for those two games? Not necessarily. The gameplay elements of how attacks are varied are nearly the same, but with a few extra steps here and there. So it clearly isn't the case of when you hear people saying that a game has been dumbed down for future titles or what they once played. Jump Ultimate Stars is clearly a different game, not because of the controls, but because of the soul. In hindsight, perhaps the deck system itself found in Jump Ultimate Stars was the de facto beacon that guided players like myself to play for years on end. I believe I played the game for 3 years consistently back in the day, but each playing session I had of it with friends either locally or online never felt like scenarios I have with most fighting games nowadays, or even back then, where I hear myself or someone go, "Oh, this matchup is terrible, so and so is broken, oh, they need to patch this out, how is this guy scrubbing me out?" Yes, there were characters who had a higher damage output, but it was usually due to a higher towered battle character instead of character's core gameplay itself tearing the seams apart of any balance found within the game. While on the topic of balance, during the time I was playing the game originally, there were 3 specific support characters who were titled the Big 3. These included Trunks from Dragonball Z, Shun from Saint Seiya, and Senna from Iceburg 21. These characters and their 3-towered support variants were so broken that the online community at the time imposed a ban on these for online play, and for good reason. This would have been akin to, say, the Street Fighter community banning Super Turbo Akuma back in the day, or Meta Knight in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. There are a variety of reasons why that ban was made for these supports, but essentially their utility was too good compared to their contemporaries. The final boss of Super Smash, Jump Ultimate Stars, whose 8-towered character variant is essentially him commandeering a space robot, walks on a tightrope of being on the verge of getting his anus banned, as one YouTuber used to say before they actually got banned themselves. I personally feel the main threat comes from the fact that not only is he an 8-towered variant character, but he's also a laughter 8-towered character, and I think he's, the only one actually. So I feel like with most people, in hindsight, it gives them the mirage, because a lot of 8-towered characters in general, I feel like at least 2/3 are power types, so obviously, in hindsight, he does feel stronger on paper compared to everyone else. So, in terms of balance, yeah, that's what I would say as a whole, actually. Despite these minor hiccups, I believe Jump Ultimate Stars is worthy of being an ultimate fighting game. It has the essential aspects of what allows the player to invest their time in a fighting game, fighting amongst their peers, learn from their wins and losses, and can give back to the community in the form of deck combo building. This all feeds back into what can be and is a thriving community. The only issue here is the obvious lack of a means to play the game in the modern age, as well as the language barrier if you would want to play it via legitimate means. I was lucky to buy the game while I was studying in Japan nearly 10 years ago, but it's clear as day as to why the game hasn't had a massive following considering these factors. The Nintendo DS was the best and worst thing that could have happened to this game as a whole. Through the pure luck of how everything harmonized with as a whole, it's difficult to imagine a successor that isn't on any other dual screen game console. I always wondered what I would expect from a new game continuing off from Jump Ultimate Stars, and like many other fans who clamour for their favourite series to be revived, I would simply like what made the game an ultimate experience in the first place to return. I understand compromises must be made as usual to accommodate for newer fans and different working methods found within gaming companies, but if the deck system and same basic control scheme were to be retained, I couldn't ask for anything more. If they want to opt for, say, a chibi style graphic scheme over the original 2D sprites, I'm all for it, despite begrudgingly doing so. The only issue that comes to mind obviously is to how they would incorporate the deck system without a second screen. The Nintendo Wii U would have been a good idea at the time, but with that, well, yeah, with that out of the way now at this point, I guess there isn't really much of an answer I have in mind. Interestingly enough, this video as a whole has made me reflect on the word ultimate, and on the greater value of the words like great, awesome, banging, smashing. In spite of Jump Ultimate Stars never having the opportunity to spread out its wings globally so the masses could see its ultimate appeal, nor being able to appear on IGN's top 10 fighting games list, it will forever hold a place in my heart as the ultimate fighting game. And hopefully at the very least, it'll be the ultimate something in your eyes, so whether that be the ultimate party game, the ultimate manga game, the ultimate deck game, the ultimate anything really. If this video achieves in making you sincerely believe this game is the ultimate something, I've done my job and can finally bring an end to the video. Man, I could listen to this forever. But yeah, that will bring an end to the video. If you guys liked what you saw, feel free to like, comment and or subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for any other games that you might be interested in hearing me talk about, that's like Japanese only, stuff like that, feel free to comment. I'd be happy to give more opinions and thoughts on more ultimate games. The ultimate waifu game, the ultimate skateboarding game. I don't know, I haven't really played any skateboarding games to be fair, but I'm sure I can find one. But yeah, if you guys liked the video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, take care and goodbye.